Bev's Video Kingdom is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised.
I can grab your favorite podcast. Let's start this thing. Woo!
Welcome to Bev's Video Kingdom. This is Nate, and it is my week to choose, and I chose one of my all-time favorite movies, Hoosiers. So in 2004, I went through and I ranked my top 100 movies. Actually, it started out as the file on my computer says top 10 movies, and then there's 100 with 70 honorable mentions. So I had a lot of time on my hands, apparently. And so I went back and I looked, and in 2004, Hoosiers was number 3 on the list. Wow. So, and I've sort of thought about updating this, and this is genre non-specific. This is my favorite movies of all time. And so I saved Hoosiers. So I saved my 3 favorite movies for when we went live. And so we're now doing number 2 just a couple weeks after Shawshank. I want to also point out, as soon as I kick it to Brad, how many of my favorite movies Brad hasn't seen, but we'll get there in a minute. So Hoosiers was directed by David Anspaugh. It came out with a $6 million budget. It was generally regarded at the time as an incredibly successful movie, but I think it's safe to say that over time, the sort of lore and love for the movie grew to a true like fever pitch. So I think, our USA Today, ESPN, all in the last couple of decades have ranked it the top sports movie of all time. I doubt anything has come along to challenge that. So it was hugely successful. It came out in 1987. It's definitely the best basketball movie of all time, in my view, and I don't know that there's a serious dispute about that. So, any serious contenders probably come from baseball, maybe football. And so this movie, for me, is like, and I'll just say really quickly, why I love it. And I've talked over and over again about loving it at different times on the pod, but like when I was a kid, I saw this when I was 8 years old, 9 years old. And I probably, after that, won the Indiana State basketball championship in my backyard about 1,000 times. Like Jimmy Chitwood, elbow jumper, bang, over and over and over again. Like this was the movie that sort of played in my head when I practiced basketball. I loved basketball. I still love basketball. I still play, old man basketball. And so at the time, for me, this movie was, everything that was romantic for me about trying to become a basketball player. And like, high school basketball heroes were my heroes at the time. Now I look back on it, and it's really great commentary on a time in my life and a type of social dynamic that I find super fascinating. I'm back, I live in the small town I grew up in now with a lot of years behind me. And I see, the positives and some of the negatives of like the way that sports play in and all the complication of that. And Hoosiers is sort of like a really interesting part of that conversation for me. So for me, the movie it speaks different things. And for me, it's held up as a great one. But I'm not going to go on too long because we have a great guest. I'm going to kick it to Nick, and then I'm going to kick it to Brad, but I'll make sure I shame him before I do that.
All right. Well, yeah, this is up there as far as my, favorite movies. It's for sure. I feel like maybe top 3 sports movies ever. I was thinking back to, again, I can't remember when I first saw it, but I feel like this is one of the first movies that I got legitimate chills to in a sports movies, and that chill moment that you talk about with all great sports movies. All the great ones have it. The 4 of us have, competing in sports, on competitive level in high school. And then, I play a little college ball too, but experiencing sports at that level and playing it and then watching a sports movie, I feel like one of my gauges for like, if a sports movie is successful in my eyes, it gives you that chill moment, and it puts you in that seat, and it gives you that chill moment in multiple times, more than just one sitting, every sitting,
Yeah.
and that's why you keep rewatching.
Well, not just multiple times, but multiple spots throughout the movie.
Right.
One of the things that I like I've been watching the movie Warrior a lot lately, and eventually we'll do that one again. But like one of the things that Hoosiers has in common is that there's multiple moments throughout the movie where it gives you that like feeling that most movies don't even give you once, right?
Yes.
You have it 4 or 5 times,
Right. And
it delivers.
So the sports connection, the small town, where we're from, connecting with that, and then also just focusing in on how important, how big a role the musical score plays in every great sports movie, and just the way that score hits right at the perfect moment in these different ways and different moments. It's a take that, like, is there anything more important than the musical score in a good sports movie to give you those chills or bring start the tears? And I feel like I come back to that every time. And so between the musical score, sports connection, that we all share, our small town connection, I just keep coming back to those three, and it's why it's a classic. And I keep coming back to it over and over. It moves quickly to me every single time.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it's right at that 2-hour mark at all.
Yeah.
To me, it flies by, and I just enjoy watching it every single time it's on. It's been a while since I watched it, and I couldn't wait to hear what Brad and Zach.
So Zach's going to join us in a little bit. Apropos to the pod, he's coaching Little League baseball, and he's scrambling to get here, so he'll jump in when he can. But Brad hadn't seen it before this. I want to point out, just for you regular listeners, that 2 of my top 3 favorite movies of all time, Shawshank Redemption and Hoosiers, my best friend of 40 years, who loves movies and now is on a movie podcast, had not seen. So, how you doing over there, asshole?
Yeah. So I feel like I have less reasoning for seeing this one than Shawshank, which both of them are pretty ludicrous. But I grew up in a football family. My dad was the head coach of our small town football team. Football was just part of our lifeblood, and so small town football particularly. It just so happened that our Nick, and our generation was just a very high point of our small town athletics across the board, football, basketball, and everything. So it was a fun time to be going to school, just building those bonds with your teammates and just having a lot of fun being a small town that is really having a lot of success. And that's the thing that kind of resonates, is that small town underdog feeling. You're always feeling like, oh, these other towns think that we're trash. Oh, they're just a bunch of little farm boys. They don't know sports, and we would always show them up. Especially, I think back at like junior high, we're playing like the teams in basketball and stuff, and Modesto and stuff. We'd go in there and we'd run them just because we were playing harder, we were playing better defense, and we would take care of business, even though we weren't the most athletic teams.
Well, and you mentioned one of the things people don't realize, we're in California, but we're not in LA or in San Francisco. We're in the middle of a big agricultural valley, so we're in a tiny town, and ag is what everybody does around here. So
yeah,
it feels familiar. All right, so
let me get back real quick to the not seeing. So not seeing Hoosiers was never any intention. I've seen most sports movies, and it's just one of those things that I just never sat down and watched, and I can't give a good reason why. Well, David,
you're on probation.
Our director that directed this movie also did Rudy, and it's like Rudy is one of my top films of all time. I love Rudy with such a passion, and it's such a great movie. Yet, I don't think and this is just my own fault, I don't think I ever put it together that Rudy was also the writer, director, and Jerry Goldsmith doing the score for both of those movies. I don't think I ever actually knew
trifecta.
That. I did not know that.
Well, you would have known it if you'd watched Hoosiers.
I have to jump in there. I did not.
Wait a minute. Somebody's here with us. I think that's David Anspaugh, the director of Hoosiers. What do you want to say, David?
I hate to interrupt y'all, but I actually didn't write either of those films.
No, the writer-director combo and the score, the three of you were for those films.
Yeah. Okay,
but we forgive. It's a forgivable thing because the chances that Brad might not have any idea about who did good movies I'd say that's a better than 50% bet.
Oh man!
All right, well, so I'm going to ask you. So in case your audience hadn't figured it out yet, we have David Anspaugh with us for the Hoosiers episode tonight. And so before we get to finding out what he's going to drink, I'm going to kick it to him and ask him. I'm not going to ask him what he thinks of the film because I assume he likes it. But what I am going to ask is, when you finished the movie, right, and you sort of got to see what was roughly the final cut. Did you know what you had? I mean, did you say, "Oh, I just made the best sports movie of all time. This is going to be a permanent classic, and it will be the sort of hallmark of my career," or did you think something else?
No, you got it absolutely right. That was my. I have just finished, and it was my first feature film. And by God, I kicked the first one right through the field goal, man. I made the best sports movie ever made, without any question.
Amen.
You know, Angelo and I are both from small towns in Indiana, and our only hope, not our only hope, we were turned down countless times over the years by studios and production companies saying, "Oh hell, who would care about a bunch of, kids running around in high top basketball shoes in the 50s, and unless you grew up on a farm or you came from Indiana, whatever, nobody would care." Thank God we didn't fall into that trap, but most people did. And the funny thing is, because it is sort of, people call it, a little slice of Americana, but the producer that fell in love with it and vowed to do it was John Daly, who's a Brit. He's a Brit, and he was a boxer, like in Liverpool or something like that. And the reason that he fell for it was the father-son relationship between Shooter and his son. He said, "That was my dad's story." And that's what made him sort of get behind it. And is that Zach that just came in?
Zach just came in.
So I just threw 50 pitches to 13 little leaguers, 50 pitches each, and came here as fast as I could. Nice to meet you, David.
No, the truth is, I don't know any director. I really don't. That actually says, "Oh God, maybe I can name a couple that might." I won't name.
But you know who you are out there, so just humble down a little bit.
We were hoping it would work. I'll tell you though, at one point I was ready to quit the film. We were about midway through shooting, and Angelo had. The original script was almost 200 pages long, and I can't remember what the final shooting script was. I have a copy that I found just recently.
But what do they say about 1 minute a page? Is that what they usually think?
Yeah, and Orion made a promise from the get-go: we will not release this movie any more than 2 hours or an hour 55 tops, and we had some vicious battles over that. And it's too bad, because the movie could have been, I think it would have been a little more accessible to some people. There are certain things that tie up stories a little better, but we still sort of earned some nice reviews, being voted one of the best sports movies of all time, or USA Today, or Sports Illustrated, whoever it was,
I believe 4 stars with Roger Ebert, correct? 4 stars, Roger Ebert?
I think. Now, it's funny because Siskel, you ever see his review of the movie?
No.
Oh my God. You should Google it. He literally, oh my God, he made such an ass of himself. And, God bless you. I'm sorry that he's dead. But he literally asked after Ebert loved the movie, he goes, "Well, I'm telling you, I don't buy it at all. And you know what? I grew up near that area. In the region around Chicago and all that. And let me tell you, a story like that could never have happened. Never. There were never any farm schools that could ever compete on that level." Wow. And he just kept digging the hole deeper and deeper.
Did he not know that it was based on a true story at the time, or was he just...
Well, Ebert said finally, "You do understand that this is based on a true story, right?"
Oh, wow.
Oh, I don't... would have happened.
So I want to talk about that piece of it, though. So about the true story. So you were about 8 when it the actual, it was the 1954 state championship game that Milan played in. That was the inspiration for the movie, right?
Excuse me, what did you Northern California do? Is just call the town Milan? What do you call it?
Milan, bro.
Hey, Down here it's called Milan.
Man, I feel
wrong emphasis
on the wrong syllable. I feel kind of ashamed of myself.
Well, David, you got to understand. We grew up in a town called Houston, which whenever you would be anywhere, you'd say, "Oh, I'm from Houston." It'd be Houston, Texas.
Yeah, no, Houston.
We're like,
Houston.
no,
Hudson?
a little bit different. We're in a town that's got 4,000 people, not.
All right, so it's
Milan.
Milan. Okay, so
Milan.
Milan in 1954.
And you remember Shooter goes in the woods. He goes, "Hey, you're playing." Oh shit.
I know which one you're talking about. Where he knows everything about him. He's like, oh, like he knows everything. And
In the movie?
Yeah.
I've never forgotten
When Hopper's talking about him? When Hopper's talking about him?
Yeah.
It's sort of like, it's not Versailles like Versailles, but it's something like that.
Okay.
In any case.
So do you remember when Milan won the state championship? You don't remember it from when you were a kid.
It was a little before my time.
But you grew up in Decatur, which is a town now. I mean, at the time, the census says it was around 9,000 people, which is about the size of the town that we live in. So, I mean, was basketball in that area similar to the way that it sort of, the culture shows up in Hoosiers?
Without question. Again, one of the responsibilities that I felt. I mean, basketball. Well, sports in general. Now, let me go with basketball for a while, because that's what I first grew up with. And my father was a professional photographer, and he had a studio just a couple blocks from the high school gym. Usually, he'd be working on a Friday night, and my mom would drive, and we would park at the studio, and we'd walk through this alley a couple blocks to get to the gym. And right now, I'm sitting here, and I can hear it, and I can smell it, and I can almost feel it. The closer you get to the gym, you heard the band playing, you heard the people cheering, you could smell the popcorn. And the reason it was so popular, I mean, Angelo and I believe that in the Midwest was because when the crops were in those small towns, there was nothing to do. So that was the place to be on the weekend, was the high school basketball game. And in some cases, football game. Now, our basketball teams were fairly good, but not that good. Our football was actually better. I played quarterback and Nick, I was all-state honorable mention.
You got me beat there.
Yeah.
I'm all league, TVL, all league.
And the first college football game, there was a doctor in town that had season tickets, and he invited me with his family to go see Notre Dame play football.
All right.
That was my first college football game.
Wow.
And Mike Ditka was playing tight end for Pitt on that.
Wow.
The gold helmets and all, that's freaking awesome.
I mean, if somebody tapped me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, kid, in about 40 years, you're going to be down in that field making one of the best." Yeah, right. Yeah, right. But the tradition and the spirit and what moved us all in those small towns, particularly in the Midwest, was basketball season. And those nights, going to those games, everybody had the same reaction that I just described to you. You all probably had the similar kind too, whether it was football or basketball. But I mean, I just remember, walking with my mom and just going into those gyms and to actually think. And it was so deafening when you walk inside. The cheering was so loud, and we had a beautiful gymnasium too. And to have to recreate that and try to capture the sight and sounds of those nights and days and nights, for me, was like pulling the sword out of the stone, if I could even come close to that.
Yeah.
And I remember I tried to do it sort of in one shot when right before the first game, when they go up the stairs and the team goes on to the floor, and Hackman is the last one there. And just before he says, "Welcome to Indiana basketball."
Yeah.
That for me was this sort of a visual equivalent of what it was for me. You could hear what was going on in there. You knew there was a lot of excitement. And then he walks through the door, and there it was. And I did a 360 around him just to show the excitement all around the gym and the noise and the team running out from the dressing room and just trying to capture all of it in one shot. You know, you never know if those things work or not, but I think it maybe added some nice flavor to it. But keeping that spirit and that sound and those experiences throughout the whole movie was very, very tough, you know, and we didn't know. I mean, the one thing, fortunately, that Orion they were almost insisting that we shoot the movie in Canada. And we said, no, they're not going to get it. You know, I mean, fans aren't going to get it.
Their courts are bigger. Their courts are bigger up there, right?
They're ice.
When you see all those crowds were people that lived in that town, and they all knew basketball, and you didn't have to coach them at all. Right. As a matter of fact, the best story of all is in the final game when it's the last night of shooting, and we had that's another story about how we got we had the gym for 4 nights, and it was basically empty the first couple nights, and we were able to bring a high school game to be played there, and we asked the people from both schools to try to come in period dress, and they gave us a half an hour at halftime. That's where all the footage of the basketball footage of the game was shot during the halftime, and then we had to stage certain things, of course.
In a half an hour?
Those were done. Yeah.
You shot the whole thing in a half an hour?
No. Just the
crowd reaction.
The
shots.
basketball footage. Yeah, without. In other words, I told him. I said, "You're going to throw it up. It's going to be a jump ball. We're going to start, and when we go, our cameras. I think we had 5 or 6 cameras. They're all going to be loading and reloading. You can call a foul if you see one, obviously, but you can go to the line, but you don't shoot. You just keep playing. In other words, they played for like 20-some minutes nonstop, which was
That's awesome.
Because by the time you got to the end, those guys were so gassed
I bet.
that in those shots towards the end of the game, and you see the sweat, and you see these guys diving for the ball, and just could barely catch their breath. That was for real,
And this is one of the things I was going to bring up is that the actors. This is a super unique thing about the movie. The actors are almost all just local high school players, right? They weren't professional actors. The ones that were on the team.
The only one that was professional was David Nydorf, who played Gene Hackman's son, and but he was just a rookie. He had maybe done one movie before ours. I'm not sure, but we saw over 1,000 guys in Indianapolis. Open call, and we had Tom Abernathy, who used to play for the Lakers, and he was on the IU undefeated team, the 76ers, and he came to the tryouts in Indianapolis, and we would divide them into groups of 10, 5-on-5, full court, and we would run them like 5, 7, whatever it was, just to get an initial look at these guys. And based on Tom and our choices, we sort of narrowed it down to like 75 people that had the right look and that had the right ability. It seemed. I
mean, how important is it? In this, in both Rudy and Hoosiers, right? I mean, one of the hallmarks from my perspective is, and this is not true of a lot of sports movies, is that everybody looks like they can play the sport, right? I mean, there's no, and so how important was that, and sort of to you generally in making the movie, and for that matter, both movies, and for choosing the actors that were going to play in this.
It wasn't even important. It was like not even up for discussion. In fact, that's why Angelo wrote the arcs of the stories rather small for them, because he didn't think that, I could turn them into actors in 2 weeks, of rehearsal. The truth was we wrote more lines for them because they were so good. But basically, we went after the guys that looked the part, that were really amazing players. Some of them were farmers. One guy was a ring salesman. Another guy sold insurance. They did all kinds of stuff, right? And one is a dentist. Well, he is now, but he was going to dental school.
Do you stay in touch with any of the actors, almost like a Miracle, the 1980 hockey team kind of a group? Do you guys stay in contact? Do they stay in contact as far as you know, or?
They do. I missed the last at the Hickory Gym. That gets into a whole other subject, but
we're gonna get
the Hickory Gym basically, have you ever gone to their website?
No, I haven't.
You haven't. You're really missing something. Hickory Gym is free. It's open every day, I think, except Sunday. You can walk into that gym, and it is 100% exactly the way it was when I walked out of the gym when I finished it.
Wow.
And the locker room. Nothing has changed. I think they had to move the foul lines, back. Mm-hmm. High schools play there almost every weekend. College games are played there. Magic and Kobe, a bunch of guys showed up for, some everybody, people come from all over the world. The last time I was there was a family from Spain. There was a mom and dad and 2 young boys, and they had to see where this game was played. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of mind-boggling in that sense. You never dream that you would have your hand in something like this.
Well, right.
No, you can't.
You can think of 2 movies, Field of Dreams. Obviously, they've done the Major League Baseball tie-in now recently, but Hoosiers is the other one. I mean, when you get Indiana, they put on the Hickory uniforms every year, and it's like, that's still a staple of just everything in pop culture. I mean, Hoosiers, that gym is legendary, and the fact that still exists and people get to play there, that's amazing.
All right, so I'm going to interrupt really quick because I want to go where that gym's going to take us, David. But first, I want to formally move us to Drinking with the Director, which is always sponsored on Bev's Video Kingdom by Last Call Brewing. Are you guys all drinking the BVK IPA over here?
Oh yeah,
about to.
Oh yeah.
All right, so David may not know, but we partnered with a local brewery not too long ago, and they let us brew a beer, foolish as they were, and it turned out we struck magic, and this beer is delicious. So we're always drinking that. Although, what's that?
Send me a.
I'll send you a 6-pack. Make sure that you sample it and judge for yourself. I'm drinking my signature Diet Pepsi and grenadine.
Disgusting.
Because that's the magic juice. What are you drinking over there, David?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, normally I have a couple things, just the way life has worked. I live alone. I have for some time now, after 2 wonderful marriages and 2 beautiful daughters and a grandson and all that stuff. But I never drink alone in my house.
Okay.
Ever. There are 2 things. I don't drink when the sun is up. And I don't drink alone, but I'm breaking that rule tonight.
Oh, wow.
So what? Wow. Well, you're not drinking alone. We're
here. We're all drinking together.
I have some Canada Dry and some good Woodward,
Ooh,
there you go.
Bourbon. There you go.
Hey, that's right up my alley. Okay. So.
And then that's backed up with Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee, which is
all right. So here's where I want to go. So you mentioned the gym and you kind of alluded to something. And so one of the things that is, if you've seen the 2 DVD set, if any of you out there have it, the second DVD has a bunch of deleted scenes with commentary from David and Angelo. And what you might not know is that there was once a official, unofficial, totally unauthorized director's cut. So you want to tell us that story?
Yeah, I have to be careful because Angelo and I were best friends for 50 years.
Yeah.
And when we went off to do Hoosiers, all of our movie friends said, "Oh, that's going to be the end of your friendship." And in fact, we met in college years ago at IU. And then we were in a fraternity for 10 minutes together. But we were freaks at the time. And, I
think I might have seen that you went to Woodstock. So I'm assuming you were enjoying yourself back in those days.
I was. Those days, where was I going? Anyway, we were like brothers, sort of. We had a falling out a little over a year ago that had nothing to do with Hoosiers or anything like that. And the board, the gym is all run by donations. And They maintain it that way, and God bless them for it, because I mean it's every minute detail. It's really for me to walk in there. I mean, literally walk into a set that was like, how many years has it been out now? You know, it's exactly the same. The head of the gym says to Angelo, "Hey, I got an idea for a fundraiser. How about we take that 2 DVD set, we cut in most of the scenes that were left out of the movie, and we'll put that in, and we'll go online and we'll sell tickets and call it the director's cut." And Angelo said, "You have a computer that can do that?" And this guy Bob says, "Yeah, I think we do." Well, there's a 21-year-old girl that was working on the board of the gym, and she like took it into her basement or whatever, and literally, Angelo said, "Yeah, go ahead and do it." No one called me. No one talked to me at all. And this was billed around the country as a director's cut. And I didn't know about it until the day before. Friends of mine calling me going, "Are you going to be there? You're going to be there? We're thinking about coming in." I'm going, "What? Beware for what?"
Oh, gosh.
And they said, "What? You don't know about what?"
The director's cut. You don't know about the director's cut?
Tomorrow night at the Hickory Gym. I went freaking ballistic. I went to the website to see if that was true. Indeed, it was. My first call was to the guy at the gym, and I said, "Who in the hell gave you permission?" "Well, I can't mention any name." I said, "Oh, you mean Angela?" "Yeah." "Well, okay." So my next call was to the Directors Guild, and I talked to the legal department, and the head counsel there was, I was telling him the story, and he started kind of laughing. He said, "Pardon me." He said, "I'm not laughing at you or, your situation. It's just that I've worked here for almost 20 years. I have never, ever seen anything as egregious and wrong as this." And he said, "If you had notified me, if I had 48 hours more, I could have served an injunction and we could have shut him down." But he said, "I don't have the time."
Oh my God.
So he sent emails to both Angelo and the guy that ran the gym. And so before the screening, they got up and said they sold 800 seats. People came from all over the country to see this thing. And they said, "Well, to be honest with you, we billed it as a director's cut, but the truth is David didn't have anything to do with it. So we're calling it the gym's cut." Jesus Christ. Anyway.
I mean, they might as well have said, "This is the bootleg copy that we got."
Right. I bought this at the flea
Yeah,
market.
and then
We're
they
gonna
bragged
play
in the newspaper, in the Indianapolis Star. The next day, they were bragging that they had 6 other copies that they knocked off.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
So okay, but I do want to talk about this, because one of the things that I rewatched the deleted scenes before the episode, and one of the things that I can't help but notice is like you grind your teeth a lot about the fact that they cut a lot of those scenes. I mean, you wanted a lot of those scenes. They were in your original cut, and you fought for a lot of them to stay.
Yeah, but here's the problem. This is all, again, Angelo's fault. And, bless his heart. And I mean, we worked hard for years to get this thing made. And he so overwrote it. Like I said, the first script was like 200 pages.
Right.
We had so little money, and our schedule was so jammed. I said, "You've got to cut a bunch of these scenes out. I can't do it with the money and time that we have, number one. And number two, you're going to end up with a movie that's so freaking long. No, I'm not going to cut anything out. I'm not cutting anything out." Shit. Well, it almost put me literally in the hospital, trying to accomplish that. And what he had, the first cut of the movie without basketball was nearly 3 hours long.
With no basketball.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my God.
So, okay, Mr. Angelo, you got all your frickin' scenes. Now, tear them out. Kill your kids, because they're not going to release it like that. And it's kind of amazing that people still refer to it with such high regard, the movie, because, as you know, when you see these scenes, it could have enriched it even more. Even if they'd had, how Buddy gets back on the team. And everybody always asks that question. Buddy walks off the team, but then all of a sudden he's back again. How did that happen?
I'll say legitimately as somebody who had never seen it before, when I watched that last night, I was like, wait, that one guy's back now. I did notice that, but then I went back and watched the deleted scenes, and yeah, there's a whole lot of backstory that brings that together. And that's an interesting story. Kid transferring and then saying, you know what, I couldn't do it. My loyalty is still to my hometown. I love that. That speaks a lot to the characters.
All those scenes that are out of the movie, there's not one of them that was a bad scene. Like, oh, we had to cut that out. We couldn't show that. No, we fought for every one of this. The harvest scene, which really shows you what their life was like as farmers. Certainly the stuff between Gene and Barbara made so much more sense, about their relationship. And I love the one scene where he comes walking in the principal's office like, what kind of hillbilly room?
And David, this is Nick, and I had a question. I had one written up ahead of time, like specifically to that topic. And I was thinking about you, and then also in directors in general. And I watched also that cut of you and Angelo talking about these deleted scenes, and it got me thinking. I wanted to ask you, directors, you come into this movie with such a large script and big idea, and you want all these scenes in. Like you said, killing your kids, like that has to be extremely difficult, and that's an understatement. Cutting it down to a couple, under a couple hours. And when this movie's done and you've seen the reception that it has, is there still part of you that thinks of, if I was just able to keep these 2 or 3 scenes, that's my ideal movie? Or, you see Francis Ford Coppola coming out with Godfather Redux and actually turning out exactly what he intended for Godfather 3. Is there a part of you that, wishes that there could be this alternate, version of this movie? Or
an
is
actual director's cut, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, of course,
or Hoosiers Redux or whatever. Yeah,
without question.
Yeah.
In fact, I had already approached MGM with this idea a couple of years before, and I didn't say anything to these guys about it because it was a done deal. It was not going to happen. No, I mean, I'm so proud of everything. But I'll tell you what, he learned his lesson when he wrote Rudy, because there's hardly any scenes deleted from that movie because he was smart enough. He didn't overwrite it,
I mean, do you now that it is, one of the things that's interesting, right, is that when you take out, especially let's talk about the Barbara Hershey, sort of character and the love story, right? Because there's so much of that developed that gets cut down, right? One of the comments that comes out a lot is that the kiss sort of sometimes feels like it comes out of nowhere.
That's the only thing that turns our stomach when that scene comes up. It's the one thing that I kind of hide my head. All right,
David, I don't know if you know this, but that's because Gene Hackman's a weird kisser. So it's not the same.
I didn't know if he was going to strangle her or kiss her.
He's like, I hit that kid, and he goes in for the kiss real quick. It's but you know what? I like it.
We slipped by. We slipped through the cracks. No, they forgave us for that. We were given a lot of, people loved the movie, even though they didn't. Yeah. Full story.
I know in my research that there was some, obviously, a lot. I shouldn't even say some. There's a lot of tension between you and Gene Hackman on the set. What was Gene Hackman's relationship with others on the set, like Barbara Hershey and some of the other actors? Like, did they get along well, or was it just tension all around because of Hackman's kind of abrasiveness?
Well, it's a very complicated question because almost any director that you ever meet that has worked with Gene that maybe isn't iconic, like a Clint Eastwood or a Coppola or, Woody Allen or somebody like that, unless you're sort of iconic, everybody is like, oh shit, I'm dealing with the son of Satan here. I mean, everybody.
Oh, boy.
Every single day, I'm not exaggerating, every single day that I went to work, there was a part of me in my brain that thought this might be my last day of work. Oh. He threatened to quit a couple times. The scene when Jimmy hits all those baskets in back of the school.
Oh, yeah.
The first scene that we shot that day was a scene in his classroom. And it was the first scene in the classroom, and he hadn't picked a kind of like a top coat, sport coat, whatever. And I brought him 2 coats that the DP and I thought would work well in the palette of that room. And I said, well, take your choice. I said, we kind of lean this way with this coat and, whatever. He goes, which one did you lean? This one. Oh, he takes it, rips it in two. He goes, oops, well, I guess.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
It was, now, the funny thing is, now looking back on this, I've studied with a number of acting coaches for years, even before I started directing, because I always thought that if I ever got the chance, I really should know something about this process. A lot of directors never, either they were actors, a lot of my favorite directors were actors, or really good writers and actors, whatever, but it gave me a huge leg up when I started directing. And when I taught my directing class at IU, I really stressed this with all these kids. If you ever hope to direct, legitimate people, get yourself in an acting class, read books, bone up on this, go look at stuff on YouTube, anything. Because you can't bullshit them. A really good actor, if you try to bullshit them, they'll have you for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And, you're screwed. And I thought Gene would really respond well to that because he knew that I was really prepared in that area and it didn't matter to him. I think I've had a number of people ask me, and again, I've had a lot of training in the method, in that, all that. And people say, well, do you think Gene was doing that just to feed that sort of, that aspect, that part of his personality as the outsider and the part that, the town didn't like him, nobody liked him, that kind of thing. Because he got along fine with Gene. He was okay with the kids. He had good days and bad days. But Barbara Hershey, on the other hand, she was caught in the middle. So she had to choose one or the other, and she got on Gene's boat, So the tension every single day on the set was, well, I showed Nate something I found on the wall of my office, and it's a production still. And I mean, a picture's worth 1,000 words. This is worth about 10,000 words. This picture was taken that explains everything. The gentleman in the center of the picture is my basketball coordinator, a guy named Don Stratagus. We were even roommates in college. He was a great player in South Bend. He basically designed most of the basketball choreography for all the different games. In fact, cool. He has a slip of paper at home that belongs in the Smithsonian because it's the picket fence. He has it all.
That does belong in the Smithsonian.
Nice.
But
let me see.
To see this.
So it's you on the left.
Oh wow!
And me with my head down. Gene with his arms folded. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to do that.
Gene's got that body language going right there.
That's iconic beyond belief. Oh, man. And the reason that was what was going on there, I said to Nate, I said, Strats had to write a lot of stuff to have, that's not in the script that, Gene as a coach is yelling, from the sidelines to his kids. And most of it was kind of Bobby Knight stuff that we lifted. And he gets in this one place where he's calling the ref a homer. And Gene goes, I'm not saying that. Homer, that's I don't know whether he thought we meant homo or whatever he said. And we go, Gene, that's what everybody called. I mean, we grew up with that. Yeah. Everybody's yelling at the referee as a homer. And that picture was literally him going, I'm not saying it. And I'm looking down like, right.
I'm pretty sure they still yell that at our basketball game. In fact,
they definitely do.
It's possible that I yelled that at a referee like last week. I don't know. It's hard to say.
And in the movie, he says, and you're playing like a bunch of gorillas and you got like a hometown referee. Oh, jeez. That was so embarrassing.
Did he also call him? He probably called him Milan too. Like, so let me ask you this about since I just brought up the Milan. So how much do you feel? Right. I mean, there's obviously specific differences from the real story, including the year and other sort of details. So and you have two just iconic sports movies, both based on real stories. And obviously you can't make a movie that catches every single detail perfectly. Sometimes you got to move the plot along and do things. So when you're thinking about trying to use a real story to motivate a movie that you've got to capture in under 2 hours, and especially given what you talked about, that, you a big part of what you're trying to do is bring to life a true to life version of the culture around Indiana basketball. How did you decide what to sort of stay true to and what to embellish or to add on or to change so that the movie worked?
Well, this is a very easy question to answer. Angelo wanted to do the real Milan story. So in his research, he went to Milan. He talked to a bunch of the players that were still alive, the coach, everybody in town, getting everybody's point of view. And he came back to LA and he goes, I can't write that movie. I can't write the movie. I said, why? He goes, nothing fucking happened. Everybody got along. He said, I asked one of the players, did anything ever bad ever happen? Well, Bobby Plump was late to practice one day. Coach made him honest to God. That's it. You made him run laps. Well, so Angelo said, I'm going to make the whole thing up. And it will be based on that story.
Yeah.
But there's nothing about it that actually ever really happened other than the dynamics, the size of the school, the enrollment versus the big guys. It captured the imagination of the state and all that. But everything else is made up of hybrid characters that we grew up with or that we knew. Now, I said to somebody, if you compare that with Rudy's like watching a Ken Burns documentary. There's nearly nothing in that movie that isn't really true or was based on truth. No, the players did not form a line and walk in with jerseys. But if you've done any research on that, the captains, the defensive captains went in to see the coach and said, look, we'll give up our jerseys, but we're representing the whole team. You've got to let him dress. You've got to let him, but we're representing everyone. So in that scene, that sort of is true in spirit to what happened, in reality. And there were people that literally said to me, I've met them later, said, I would have given up my jersey in a heartbeat.
That's super interesting that he had to kind of come up with some embellishments to make the rest of the characters interesting, right? And I think that my favorite part of this movie and part of the winning shot is amazing, but I really think that when Shooter comes out onto the court during that game is like the most emotionally impactful scene of the movie. It's just like your heart drops and you just think, oh my gosh, what is happening? And how was Dennis Hopper on the set? Was he awesome? I don't know if you guys talked about this, but he is my favorite part of the film.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was a fan of Dennis Hopper since I saw Rebel Without a Cause.
Oh yeah,
Giant. Yeah. Even Cool Hand Luke. I never, ever, ever dreamed that I would be so lucky to work with him. And it's funny because most people say, oh, watch out for Hopper. He's crazy. Oh, no, look out. No, he was also because he's a director, too. So right. He kind of knows what the director's going through. Now, unfortunately, he was doing Blue Velvet when we started shooting. So he didn't arrive until 2 weeks into the film. It's too bad because in a way, actors are like most of us. They're like children. They want to be loved. And even Gene would like to be loved. But as a funny way of showing it, but everybody loved Dennis. When Gene saw all that love going to Dennis, he softened up a little bit. It wasn't quite as harsh as he was once Dennis arrived. But there's so many things that were so much fun. And when you talk about that scene, when you're talking about when he's drunk and he comes into the game.
It's when he comes onto the court after he's already cleaned up and done really well. He does good with the team and then he relapses. Yeah, he falls off the wagon and comes onto the court. Man, it is just heart-wrenching.
Well, wait till you hear this. This is one of the things I love about that scene, and I've talked about it a lot. That was Dennis's first scene, and Dennis showed up. We were shooting at night, and he literally got off a private plane and was whisked out into the middle of the country, this gym, to do a scene. He literally, I have to put it, I can't be really gross about it. He said, "You can't believe where I spent the entire day today in North Carolina." And in a comfortable spot with Isabella Russell.
Sounds rough.
Nestled in a comfortable spot, right?
I feel pretty bad for him right now. All
so now the funny thing was, I showed him the wardrobe that we had picked out, and he loved everything. But he saw this stovepipe hat, and I said, "No, Dennis, no, that's just too old." And he really fought me on. Now it was our first go around, and I finally just said, "You know what, David? This is a guy you would have killed to have in this part. Trust him." Yeah. And by the way, I say that there was one other actor we offered the part to that I wanted before Dennis. Anybody want to guess who that might have been?
Oh man!
Oh God, I have no idea.
Dustin Hoffman.
No, Harry Dean Stanton.
Oh, okay. That would have been an interesting one.
Yeah.
I can see it.
And it was so funny. One night I was in this bar across from Tony Bill's office, and Tony was having a screening of something. And I was sitting at the bar, and Dennis walks in with Harry Dean. And Harry Dean's in his cups, right? He's fucked up. And so Dennis he says, "David, I want you to meet Harry Dean Stanton. Harry, this is David Anspaugh. He directed me in Hoosiers." I love that movie. I love them. He says, "Hey, I'll be back in 20 minutes. I have to get back over there. I have to make a quick little speech. If and he's throwing some money on the bar." I said, no, just have a drink with Harry. So we're sitting there, and finally I said, Harry was talking about the movie, and I said, "Well, Harry, I have to ask you a question." I said, "I'm really curious. Why did you turn us down?" And he said, "What do you mean turn you down?"
Oh no.
"Well, you were the guy that I wanted to play Dennis's role." He said, "I never saw it."
Oh, I'll bet that was a crusher for him. Way to ruin his night.
He didn't give it to me.
Oh,
he said, "I'll keep that." He said, "Will you keep one?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I was offered his part in Blue Velvet as well."
All right. So since we're talking about hypotheticals, I got one more question for you before I let you go.
Oh, wait, can I just finish real
Oh, yes,
quick?
please. Yeah.
It's very important to me because I got a little bit of history. When Dennis walks out on the floor, and it was the most convincing drunk I think I'd ever seen. And
it's amazing.
So we get back there, and he says, "David, before I did the first shot," he said, "once you're set and ready to go, give me a cue and give me 15 seconds before you call action." I said, "Okay." So we're all set up. I said, "Dennis, it's all yours." So he stood there and he spun as fast as he could.
Oh
no. He goes, "Okay, now." And I said, "Action." So when you see him out there, that's him
Dizzy.
Trying to keep his.
He's really discombobulated. That's awesome.
That's some hardcore. That's method shit right there. You just spin for drunk.
Wait till you hear the end of this. So we go back into the. We started in the lobby of the gym. I said, "Dennis, I've been going to classes for years. I've seen a lot of people do drunk in different." I said, "Where did you come up with that?" He said, "Well, you got a little bit of Indiana here." He said, "I learned that from James Dean in Giant." And he said,
wow.
Scene where Dean comes into the empty banquet room, and he's falling all over himself, and it ends up like dropping his head in the plate and then pushing the thing. He said, Dean did that every time before every take.
Wow.
So when you see that movie, that's what happened. That's how he got there. So it was really cool because, Dean grew up like 50 miles from where we were shooting and played high school basketball. And I got to know his cousin, where he spent his youth growing up with his uncle and his cousins. And I mean, one of the greatest compliments was his cousin said, "Jimmy would have loved this movie."
That's awesome. Okay, so
I got a little bit of him in it.
That part of that performance.
So what's one or two movies that if you could go back and have them, that you would have loved to have gotten to direct?
Oh, gosh. Well, there are a number of them. I really fought hard to do Gorillas in the Mist. Well, you and I know about one that I'll get to in a second. Good Will Hunting, I would have loved. I'll tell you one I turned down that was stupid of me, and I turned it down. I already had the job. There was no getting fired. It was mine to do. And then I thought to myself, I want to do like a movie like Seven. I want the dark side. I don't do just inspirational good film movies.
That's awesome.
I can be bad too.
And I turned down Mr. Holland's Opus.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And then another movie that is now being written about now. I saw a documentary on PBS called A League of Their Own, and I went, oh my God, that's a movie. And I remember because my grandfather took me to see these women play in Fort Wayne. It was the first professional sport I ever witnessed, the Fort Wayne Daisies. Long story short, I was bidding against Penny Marshall, and of course Penny had a few more resources than I. And she got the nod. So she was prepping the movie, and all of a sudden, again, my manager calls me at night, and he said, look, Penny just finished Awakenings at Columbia, and she's got all this post-production to do, and Fox doesn't want to wait. They want to do A League of Their Own this summer. So Penny wants to know if you'd fly out to New York and meet with her. So I flew out the next day, and we stayed up nearly all night in her apartment. And finally, at the end of the deal, she said, it's your movie. Now, Penny could not have been a better producer. I literally laid out that whole movie. I mean, helped design the wardrobe. I chose all the locations. I cast the whole movie, except I had Jim Belushi instead of Tom Hanks. I had Helen Hunt and Mariel Hemingway instead of Madonna and Gina. And what I recently found out from this author that's doing a piece on the movie, she said, the real reason why he got fired. I went, I kind of know, but what? She said, Lowell Gantz and Babalu Mandel, the writers, they basically talked Penny out of you directing the movie because they felt that you didn't have a sense of humor. And the reason they felt that is because, I'll give you a perfect example. When I met with Penny that night in her apartment, I said, look, this is a very funny script. There's a lot of funny stuff in it. And there's a lot of funny stuff that really happened with the women. And I said, what they did and what they accomplished was so remarkable that in no way do I want to make them look like clowns or fools. I'll have the stuff that's natural, that's fun. But I said, I'm not doing a scene where Rosie O'Donnell dives into the fan to catch a ball and comes up with a hot dog in her mouth. Yeah. That's not in the movie.
Yeah.
Well, it's in her movie because Lowell and Babalu said Anspaugh doesn't understand humor.
Ouch.
David, I'm with you on this.
Oh, hot dog in the mouth.
Oh, man.
There were a few other scenes. That is probably the most egregious one of all, but there were others that were like that. And she said, well, did you ever talk to Penny about the movie? I said, it's funny. I said, I didn't hold any animosity towards her. I know how politics work. I know that Amy Pascal, who took over Columbia at that time, she and Penny were real tight, really good friends. I know that Penny really wanted to do the movie. So with Lowell and Babalu saying, get rid of this guy, he has no sense of humor, that behind my back, they set it up and they paid me off, or they paid my fee. And it was about, the movie had been out not quite maybe 6 months or so. And I was in a bar in LA, quiet little bar. And I was sitting at the bar. I know the bartender and some of the people that work there. And one of the servers came over to me and said, excuse me, that somebody here would like to talk to you. And I said, who's that? And he points over his shoulder. And I kind of turn around, and it's Penny sitting all by herself at this booth. I thought, oh, my God. Well, she sees me. She knows I'm here. Sooner or later, we're going to have. So I pick up my drink, and I walk over, and she gets up, and we have this big hug and everything. And I said, look, I just want you to know, Penny, I've not seen the movie, and I never will. It was way too personal to me, and I hope you understand. She said, of course I understand. She said, but you would have made a much better movie than I did.
Oh,
Wow.
That's pretty. That's pretty cool. Pretty gracious.
And whether she felt it, didn't. What this writer who's doing this book, she said, from what I gather, what she was referring to was that she kind of fell prey to the Lowell and Babalu school of comedy, that she realized that if she had that out, it still would have been a great movie, but it wouldn't be quite as asinine in parts, But that one hurt a lot. I really, really wanted to make that movie, and my God, I still have the screen tests. I've seen some of them. I have tryouts, but that was, again, I did the same thing. I told her, I said, look, when these women came out to play ball, when all the men went to Europe to fight, nobody believed they could, maybe softball or kickball or something, but not baseball.
Yeah.
And these women proved that they could really play at a high level. Now, if we make a movie about that, it's going to be all actresses. Most people are going to think, well, they're going to cast it with a bunch of doubles. How many actresses can really play baseball, believably? I said, I could be wrong, but let's have an open call in New York and here in LA, one in Chicago, I believe. And Rod Dado, who was the coach at USC, and all his assistants, we had these tryout games. And every single ingenue, I didn't realize we were going here, because if I read you the list of every actress that was there to try out, it's every major actress that today. Wow. It was trying out. And I wish somebody had done a documentary on that. That would have been fascinating.
Super cool.
Hey, well, maybe that's the next project.
But you know what? We found all those women could play, and play really well, except for Madonna and Gina, of course. And Lori Petty, of course, Lori's in the movie, and Téa Leoni and Rosie and all of them. And I mean, I missed it so much. And I'll tell you a funny thing. I was married to Roma Downey. I guess you know that, and you're researching. And she was in New York. Our little Riley, who's now 26, she was just a newborn baby pretty much. And we were in the green room at Rosie's show. And I said to Roma, I said, it'll really be interesting to see if Rosie even remembers who I am, And so a few minutes later, Rosie starts to walk into the room with a little entourage of young ladies, interns, whatever they were. And she stops them at the doorway. And she said, I just want you to know, before you walk through this door, there's one person in this room that's responsible for me having a job, and thus all of you having jobs. David Anspaugh. Right over there.
That's cool. And you didn't even know she was going to remember you.
That's super.
No,
that's cool.
Or even she knew. Most of them knew that they were that I was the one that said yes. I mean, Penny had to agree, but they were all on board because I was behind them.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
anyway.
You know what? I wish I'd like to see the League of the David Anspaugh League of Their Own.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going on record about that. Hey, I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate you coming on and how much of a treat this was for us. And I know for our listeners, we will definitely send you some BVK IPA so that when the sun goes down and you have company, you'll have a couple to share.
Yeah, and you're not drinking alone tonight, David. You're drinking with BVK community over here, Bev's Video Kingdom.
Technically, that's right. That's why I agreed to do this.
It's not drinking alone.
All right.
Not the interview, but to actually drink alone in the house.
No, we assume you're like, I don't really want to do the interview, but it'll give me an excuse to drink. So, hey,
listen, I love your shows, you guys. It's so entertaining. And it's funny. I got to plug my daughter.
Please.
She has a podcast called Review Reviews.
Oh, awesome.
And she does it with another gentleman in LA, and what their show is, they're both really great improv, and she is an amazing actress and writes well, and she actually has sung twice at Carnegie Hall.
Wow.
She's amazing talent.
So she's sort of talented, is what you're saying.
Right. Riley Anspaugh, and the show is called Reviews. And what they do is every week, every show will be anything from a haunted house to picking apples to any of the, and they just take reviews that have been written about these things, and then they end up portraying the characters who wrote the reviews.
That's actually awesome.
What a great idea.
You should check it out.
We will check it out. All right, so everybody jump over and go to reviews and subscribe and give yourself a listen. It sounds like it's going to be awesome. That's the first thing I'm going to do tomorrow morning.
Not only are we going to check it out, but they're about to get an email from Bev's Video Kingdom and see if they want to do some collaborations.
Oh man, well, it's
you guys would work well together. You really would.
Well, you know what? There's an excellent chance we're going to reach out, so we'll find out. But hey, thanks for coming on. Thanks for listening. And truly, I mean what I say in that, I don't want to be too much of a fanboy here, but I got to talk to the person that made one of my top 5 movies of all time, so this is a pretty good night for me.
Yeah, it's an honor.
So thanks for doing it, and thanks for a great interview.
Thanks so much,
and
David.
we will definitely send you some swag.
It was such a pleasure. And there was one thing we got. Like I said, Hackman shook everyone's hand, but Angelo's and mine when he left on his last.
God.
And time came when he was, by the way, speaking of music, we cannot forget this. This movie would not have what it was with Cherry, right?
1,000%.
And if you look, this is the first American period film using electronic music, I think, ever. But it was definitely the first sports movie ever, but maybe the first American period film that had electronic track.
Well, the tryout track from Rudy, when it's like the tryout, that song is on my playlist and it plays all the time and I love it. It's just, gosh, it's magical.
I'm talking about Hoosiers.
Oh,
yeah, we got you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I know you're talking about Hoosiers. I'm saying I love the Rudy soundtrack.
Right.
That's
he also made a movie called Hoosiers. I don't know if you've seen it. It's pretty good.
He should have been nominated for that because that track was used more often than any other soundtrack for trailers and video, all kinds of background, professional teams, all that stuff. And he did a suite at Albert Hall called the Rudy Hoosiers Suite, where you find it on the internet. It's astounding. He combines the two main themes, and it's like standing ovation.
Wow. Was it London Philharmonic or who was it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Oh, wow.
I believe so. And the last thing is that most people don't know this, and it's very rare that it ever happened. Because the apology, he had to come in to do looping because we were invited to screen the movie at the Kennedy Center for the members of Congress and the Senate and so on and so forth. So we had to loop him. So he hadn't seen the movie, so he asked to see it the night before he did his looping because I think he thought if it was really shitty, he wouldn't do it, Showed up, and I'll never forget being in that. It was me and Angelo and a recording engineer there. And I heard him walking down the hallway, and I thought, oh, God, oh, shit. How do I get out? I can't get out of this. And he walked in. He walked up to me, and he took his glasses off, and he put his hand out, and he says, how the fuck did you do that? Then he went. He stood up to the podium. He goes, how would you like me to do that? He was like the perfect, how about this way or that way? Or I'd earned his, we earned
You got his respect, exactly.
And the second one was that a lot of people don't know it, but we were invited to screen Rudy at the White House with only about 35 people. We had dinner at the White House and screened the movie and then spent the rest of the night in the Oval Office with Bill and Hillary.
I was just going to say, Clinton was a big college football fan, so that's no surprise.
Cheeseburgers and football.
Sorry.
No, that's all.
Sorry for you to run over. You can edit me out.
No, we're keeping it all.
Right.
We'd keep you all night, except you're in Eastern time, and I think it's about we're getting close to midnight here. So
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
we've kept you long enough. Okay, so thank you again, and we will. I'll circle back with you, and I'll get your address, and we'll send you some stuff, and we'll definitely be in touch.
Thank each and every one of you. It was really a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, I haven't talked about it for a while. In a forum like this, you brought back a lot of really good memories. Except for the damn director's cut.
We enjoyed it.
Well, when you're ready to do a real director's cut, BVK is going to sign on as a co-sponsor of that one. So. All right, David, go Hoosiers in the Big Ten tournament. Huh?
Thank you. Have a great night, y'all.
You too, David. Thank you.
You too, David.
Well, yeah, that was awesome. So we just finished with David Anspaugh.
That just happened.
We call him D-Spa because we're like super close. We're like, what's up, D-Spa?
Man. So thanks again to him for coming on and talking Hoosiers with us, talking a little bit of Rudy. Shag Snag Body Bag.
Is it a one-night stand, or do you hit it with a shovel, or take it home to mom and dad? It's like fuck, marry, or kill. It's Shag Snag Body Bag.
What do you guys got? And by the way, I'm just going to warn you now. I'm going to be throwing punches because I'm full on team Anspaugh here. Just putting that out there right now.
I'm in a tough seat right now.
I'm hoping that Dave was just like, yeah, I don't need to listen to that pod. I don't need to listen to that pod. But if he is, David, if you're here with us, this is all with love.
Okay,
all with love.
All right. So Nikki? What are you shagging?
I got like a few things, but so pregame speech in a movie. Shagging the pregame speech. And like this is like understated. It's one of the more understated, right? But it's still, I think, as time goes on, it ends up holding up because of that. And like David talked about, I wanted to talk to him because one of my I listed like a few of my favorite scenes, and one of them, and they were in chronological order. One of them is his first game in Hickory when he walks into that gym with the loud, raucous crowd, and it comes from that quiet locker room up the steps, and it just makes it sound even louder. That's his pregame speech for the championship game has that same quiet, understated, and just his look. And I wish I mean some of those deleted scenes we talked about that would have maybe given you a little bit more insight into his character. I still was. I mean, by that time I was way in deep, to his character and caring about that team, and his look as he looks around the team and he just says, I love you guys. As a coach, you say that to players and you just don't really think about it because you've spent so much time together. I mean, it's months and months of blood, sweat, and tears, literally ups and downs of a season, any season, that you share with, a group of young men that you're trying to kind of, guide in one direction and turn into young men and teach all these lessons. And the movie doesn't get too much into that, but I feel like his pump up speech and his look around as he scans around his group and he just says that. And I think that's why they come back to it at the end of the game, because it says so much, and you don't have to do a lot in those moments. And I still feel Al Pacino's pregame speech in Any Given Sunday is still my favorite pregame speech and most ever. I think it's the best one ever, but this is right there with it.
Yeah. So one of the things I love about it, I noted this time, is like it doesn't completely cut out the basketball, right? And he has the stuff up on the chalkboard, and he kind of reminds them of some of the basic things.
But at that point, really quick, it was like at that point he had gone over that same pregame speech, drawing that up, game after game after game. When you get to the championship game, you've been over it a million times. He knows that. The players know that. And it's like he played that perfectly, because I feel like they didn't
because you still do it, right? You still do it, right?
Right.
And
it's part of the routine.
I coach high school. I coached high school basketball for a number of years, and you coach football. You still go through that thing even at the end of the season when it's really well known. And I liked it that they had that, but it wasn't like they didn't overdo it, they didn't underdo it. So for me, that there's a big part of that speech I love for both parts. But
the routine, right? That's what it's like. You've been living and dying on the routine. It's been working.
You do it again.
The last thing you do is you don't stray away from that. Yeah.
I'm gonna shag. You know what? It's I don't like this, and we'll get to that when I get to my alternate ending. But I have to shag Jimmy Chitwood. I Can Make It, I mean, just basically when he tells the coach that he's going to make that shot, and they just like look and they're like, well, of course you're going to make it. And I'd like that confidence when you have a player like that who's just like, you know what, I'm going to make this happen. Put the team on their back. And you just knew it was going to do it, and you knew he was going to make the shot. So I got to give my shag to those confidence moments where it's like that person who you know is going to come through, and you put it all on the line, and that person handles their business. So that's my shag, Jimmy Chitwood.
I'm shagging just the main thing that comes through in this movie, which is small town sports. Right? Like it's the big theme from this movie. Everybody's super invested. When he goes to the town hall meeting, basically, and everybody from the town is there, and all the dads are there, and they're all telling him what he should do and what he shouldn't do, and he's just like, you know what, fuck you guys, like I'm doing what I'm gonna do, and I don't care.
The priest says, "You're a God-fearing man, right? Now, God-fearing man, right? Yeah. Now, I got a question. Are you a zone or man defense guy?"
Exactly. These are serious questions that we must ask of somebody. You know what I mean? Like in our town, it was probably football, but like, I mean, dude, it was like that hit really close to home. Everybody really giving a shit. Like Nick can speak to it as being like a part of the coaching staff on a football team where football is really important to the people in the town, and people will come up to you and they will unabashedly give you their opinion on what you should be doing. And you know what I mean? You're like, dude, I know more than you.
Hamilton's breakfast with my dad when he was
your dad,
coach.
Exactly.
Every 2 minutes, somebody was coming up and interrupting us while we're eating. And
you guys should all know that Brad's dad is like a legit legendary coach in this area. Like he legit coached the team for 30-something years and won however many championships and whatever it is, and was just like a fixture in this town. And it reached like some pretty high heights as far as like a small town coach can do.
Some of the better moments of our high school's history.
Exactly. Sure. Like for all of us. And he actually left and then came back and coached Nick's team to where he left. He retired. Our team kind of floundered for a couple of years, came back, and then what happened? Well, he left for 2 years, came back, and what happened?
Because he would leave for the bad teams and come back for the good teams. That's how you become a legendary championship coach. Is when you know what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying? He was like, these guys are going to suck for a couple of years. I'm going to leave, and then he came back and was like, oh, we just won the section championship. You know what I mean? Like,
it's all me.
Yeah.
Glory hog, Franca.
I know you don't listen, Mr. Franca, but God damn it, this shit is perfect. But that was my snag. I just love that they capture they capture really well the feeling of like the town and the pressure that can come onto these coaches, and like everybody's, your kid's a senior, this is his last year, and like there's a lot of high stakes for people that when you're a coach, you may not see it at a different level, but on a small town level, like that stuff can weigh really heavy on you. So I think that was really cool. Yeah, exactly.
So for me, it's a little bit of a riff on that, but the specific scene for me is the shag of entering Butler Fieldhouse and him measuring the height of the rim and the distance.
That's a really cool scene.
And like I remember, so we went to the section championships when I was a senior playing basketball, and we went and played in Arco Arena, which at the time was where the Kings played. And I still remember walking into to Arco down on the floor, and I'd seen basketball games there, pro games and stuff. And I remember like very vividly having that same kind of a feeling and kind of thinking about Hoosiers and being like, okay, like this is still just a basketball court. Yeah. It's still just a rim.
But you're at Arco fucking Arena.
Yeah, and it was like, I remember sitting with Brad, who didn't play, but was like, traveling with us to go watch and stuff. I remember sitting before the game with him in the stands, kind of 10 rows up on one of the corners, just looking down and kind of talking. And it's a really surreal thing, and it definitely captured that feeling, not only of like the awe of it, but also the need to try to ground, that. And so I love that scene. I think it's perfect for what it's trying to do. It does a whole bunch of things without being too on the nose about it. I absolutely love it.
That's the same thing
with Encina or Encitas?
Encina.
Encina. That's who we.
So for years, when section championship was held at University of Pacific, and so that was where our section championship was held.
Football,
and I think of that exact moment when they walk into the gym, and when we walked, it was an early morning.
Dude.
We got on the bus, we had breakfast in town, and like they kind of saw us off. It wasn't like they lined the streets, but like crowd of like parents saw us off early in the morning because we had like a 1 o'clock like start date. Early, you're playing Friday night football as like a high schooler. You're not playing morning Saturday ball, and Saturday morning early UOP, and it was a foggy morning. It was supposed to be nice weather, but it was super like thick fog. And they let us walk the field in an empty UOP stadium, and we've never, seen or been in a stadium at that point, let alone getting ready to play in a stadium like that in about 2 or 3 hours. And it's like dead silent, and we're about ready to play in 2 or 3 hours. Super thick fog, and it's just like quiet. And I just think about like that guy when he like screams "Hickory" and like the echo, and it kind of echoes, and you're just like, wow.
Was that Kyle? Did Kyle
No,
yell?
nobody yelled. No, yeah. Nobody yelled. But anyways,
Kyle made his noise during the game when he chucked that DB,
and then he like looked and like smiled at him. Anyways, and we ended up winning that game, and it turned out to be a very Hoosier-esque type moment, which watching the clock run down, and it's I think about that all the time, and Hoosiers brings that chill from that day because it ended up being the most beautiful day you could have asked for. But by game time, the sun was out, and it was like, I don't know, 50 degrees. It was chilly, but it couldn't have asked for better football weather.
All I want to say to piggyback on Nate's is that, Keith, I know you're listening right now. I know it's 5 a.m. and you're listening to the podcast right now. But Keith, I want to give you a shout out because the neighbor girl was friends with your daughter Amy, and she invited me to the game, and I said, oh, I would love to go to the game. They're playing the section championship, and these were all like my idol guys. They're way older than me. Like it's Nate and Brad's age, so
Not
they're
that much
way
older.
I remember I was in 8th grade. They were like seniors, and so I was like, oh yeah, I would love to go to the game. And so I go to the game. I get a ride with Nate's parents. I don't know them at all. They give me a ride to the game, and then on the way back, Nate's dad's like, we're going to go to dinner. You ready? You want to go to dinner? I'm like, yeah. We go to dinner. We go to Tony Roma's, and he buys me a full rack of ribs that's like $30. I'm just some kid he's never met before and buys me a full rack of ribs. And I ate that shit, and I was like, this is the best day of my life. So
we lost the section championship, but he still bought the ribs,
lost the game, but I got a full rack of ribs, and I got to hang out with like Nate and Nate's sister and like my cute neighbor girl from down the street. It was fucking awesome, and it was a great day of my life. So thank you, Keith.
Well, if I'm
Big
not
shout out.
If I'm not mistaken, I mean, in our high school's history, I believe our senior year was the furthest that
no other basketball team in our high school.
Yeah, we went to the NorCal
for the boys' side. The girls' side have won section championships and
Right.
made it further than that. But
we went to the
boys'
NorCal
side.
semifinals in the playoffs, wasn't it?
No. We lost the section championship.
lost the section
Lost to the
championship,
NorCals, but
Yeah.
but it was the furthest. Yeah, furthest that.
And you guys were in the state tournament essentially because it was
But Brad, you're bearing the lead. I got a rack of ribs. I ate ribs, and it was fucking delicious.
All right, what are we snagging? Zach, what do you want to snag?
So my snag is easy, and it's Hopper, and he fucking just absolutely made this movie for me. So I showed up late to the pod because I was pitching fucking batting practice to a bunch of 12-year-olds, and I got to tell you guys, it's a funny story. So we show up to the batting cages. I've got my whole team of 10 and 11-year-olds, right? And they're all 10 and 11-year-old boys. And then, so the other team shows up that's using the field next to ours, and they come over to use the batting cages, and it's all like 8th grade, pre-9th grade girls. Every single one of them. And my boys, there's nothing more distracting to a 10-year-old, 11-year-old boy than a whole bunch of 8th grade girls, like, in their workout gear, like playing softball right next to them. And I'm trying to pitch these guys batting practice, and the whole time I'm like, are you paying attention? Are you looking at the ball? And they're not looking at the ball. They're like, are you, coach, do you see these girls over here? They're playing baseball. And I'm like, this is absolutely just the most ineffective training environment that we've ever had. It took super long. I showed up to the pod late. Anspaugh is already talking about all sorts of shit. I show up. I'm like, oh, hey, what's up, guys? Anyways, I can't even remember what I was going with the story.
What are you snagging?
Oh,
Hopper.
So my snag is Hopper. I show up. I don't know what you guys have already talked about. I'm like, I want to talk about Hopper the whole time. I finally bring it up. It doesn't sound like we've already talked about it. Yeah. But dude, he just absolutely makes this movie.
And he's nominated for the. I mean, he's the only the score and Hopper get nominated for the Academy
and
Award.
Rightly so. I mean,
he kills, and I think it's the only time he's ever been nominated for an
besides the cool like sports moment of this movie. Like he literally makes the movie for me, and the long hair that he has and his mannerisms and all like Anspaugh told the great story about him spinning around so that he would seem drunk. Like everything that he does in this just absolutely kills it for me, and that's my my snag.
Well, he had also just like gotten sober, and so like I think had a lot of reluctance about filming the movie as a drunk, right? And
he was doing Blue Velvet in the background, like
unbelievable.
It's just fucking so sick, and it made the movie for me for sure. And I didn't get to talk about what I felt about the movie, but I did not love Hackman in this movie at all. And fucking Hopper saves everything. That's by a lot.
Super interesting because I had the exact opposite take. I think that Hackman does a great job, and I thought as much as I had heard that Hopper was nominated for the Oscar, I was like, this performance, to me, it came across corny. I like Dennis Hopper.
Are you fucking serious?
I like Dennis Hopper a lot,
dude,
and I just thought it just came across a little forced and a little bit
I
of
think
corny.
Hackman comes across super wooden and like very standoffish the entire time. When he kisses the girl, I'm like, I got like some weird vibes. My wife was like, she does not like this. It was weird, dude.
I was saying I was going to come in with some takes that I that might not be popular, but his Hopper's performance does not do it for me in this movie.
Oh, it's so realistic.
It's hard to see.
You don't know enough drunk dudes.
I mean, I know a lot, and it felt forced. Like I don't know.
His display of the drunken man when he comes onto the field, it's like he knows that he's not supposed to do that, but he's gonna do it anyways, and he knows he shouldn't be doing it. But you can see in his face that he's embarrassed, but he has this thing that he feels like he needs to say. It's just so perfect, dude.
Yeah, I agree that I'm
you mentioned last week. I think somebody like when it feels like they're acting in a play, and kind of that's what it felt to me. So
that's only because a lot of the other acting in the movie is pretty wooden. I feel like compared to Hopper's performance, a lot of the other stuff can feel very like super like kind of contrived a little bit, but Hopper I think comes through like just like a fucking bulldog.
It's a weird movie that with both.
I was just gonna say I think both takes is completely wrong.
It's a weird movie when there's only really 3 performances in the movie. I mean, there's basically
the 3? You got
Hopper,
Hackman,
Hershey,
Hopper, and the girl.
Yeah,
I agree.
Triple H.
Triple H.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that there's a bunch of that's undersells a lot of like really small, but like really impactful.
The only other one that really impacted me is the guy that's like trying to coach the team when he kicks him out of the gym.
Oh, yeah.
That guy's fucking great.
the pitcher from Major League.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, Nikki, what are you snagging?
Okay, so are you going to take Anspaugh?
Oh, I'm definitely taking Anspaugh. I was going to do two for.
So was
go
I.
Ahead. Okay, go take.
Do you want to do this together? You want to
say it at the same time?
We have to take.
You want to make eye contact while we do it at the same time?
Look at my eyes.
That's the official BVK rules. That you got to look each other in the eyes.
Are we taking Anspaugh on the score? Is that what we're taking?
You touch the head
Goldsmith and Anspaugh.
Goldsmith and Anspaugh.
The Goldsmith and Anspaugh connection.
Yeah, I mean, for me. Like, why don't you talk about the score? Because you talk, that's I know that's.
Well,
like
the crossover, right? Because it's the tag team between Rudy and Hoosiers, and 2 of the most iconic and best sports movies of all time, and most iconic scores of all time. Hoosiers maybe a little less as far as iconic amongst sports movie scores. Rudy's,
but he does win he wins it, the Oscar
right?
for it.
Probably because it was first, because Rudy would have won it, and probably but maybe I don't know where Rudy stood at that time as far as when it came out, but I feel like Rudy is probably held up as time has gone on. But I mean, still unbelievable, played throughout different sports, montages, and we talked, and I mentioned the chill moments, and I don't know if there's anybody better, or they broke the mold, or he made the mold as far as the chill moment controlled by the score. Goldsmith did, and Anspaugh and Goldsmith had something together, a connection.
Well, and Anspaugh for me, like there's a lot to like here. Obviously, about the I love the movie. I've always loved it, and that's well tread. But for me, I think it's that there's something about the way that like culture interacts with sport that he does in both Rudy, but even more so in Hoosiers, that to me is like just perfectly done here, and it's really intentional.
Well, and I feel like I wonder how much some of it had to have like just helped, but his being an born in Indiana, right? Like he knows the earth, you know what I mean? He knows the area, he knows the towns, he knows the feel, just like we know like our town, and
you just know exactly
it's an
what
area.
was right and what was wrong, right? You don't need an expert.
It's home. It's a
for
guy.
The heart of the movie. You
right.
don't need any expert.
The guy talking about his home.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So that's it for me, no question.
And dealing with the bullshit that he dealt with, Anspaugh, and fighting through that as like his first movie with Hackman, and we can go right into Body Bag because that can lead into my body bag.
Well, I need to snag.
Oh, you need to snag.
Oh, my bad.
I'm gonna snag. It's really quick. Just the nostalgia of small town sports, but I'm gonna take Barbara Hershey's perspective of being able to also move on from it. The fact that like if you can enjoy those moments and look forward to them, like I said, all small town sports movies resonate with me. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, when you can just be like, you know what, but that's not what embodies me. That's not what my life is. And unfortunately, we do know some individuals that we've grown up with that was their life, and like it's like it doesn't go beyond that touchdown they scored in the football game or things like that. And it's just that's being able to move past it. That's something that I think she brings up in the movie.
You weren't a little bit mad at Hershey when she was like kind of shitting on basketball and everything, and then all of a sudden at the game she's like excited about them winning? I'm like, bitch, you can't be excited.
No, but see, I totally so like I want to jump on Brad's because I think that's a great one, and I kind of wanted to bring this up with David, but we sort of one of the many things I didn't get to talk to him about, but I mean. I had remembered Hoosiers even right up to the time I was going to rewatch this as like a movie that kind of one-sidedly sings the like cultural praises of small town sports, and then I was kind of in my mind contrasting it with like a Friday Night Lights where you see that perspective of man, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of kind of underbelly that's not so pretty about
shows the warts.
And yeah, exactly. About, we're heroicizing these kids that are totally not able to handle it. We're way overinflating the importance of what this is and making too big a deal of it. But then I was like, I watched the movie and I was like, oh, wait a minute. That voice is right there, and she is very clearly saying in exactly the way that I would have wanted to, I don't want you to grow up and have this be the biggest thing that ever happened.
Make him a king or whatever it is. Yeah.
And so for me, like, I think that's a great snag. And I think the movie does a better, more subtle job than I had appreciated at a younger age for like laying this kind of dynamic out.
Well, and like in the deleted scenes, the link that you sent us, one of them was right before they get ready to take off in the caravan for the championship game. It shows there's a scene between Normandale and Hershey, and she's letting him know that, like, obviously they have chemistry and they've started this like thing together. And she lets him know, like, listen, I'm going to be leaving to go to school, right, in the neighboring town or Chicago, and just that's a little window too into like, okay, we're getting ready to leave for the championship game, but what else? Like, this is what's happening after. What are we going to do after? Because this isn't kind of like everything. I think it kind of leads into what you're talking about, Brad. It's a good take, man.
Really,
I'm going to move forward with. Oh, go for it.
I was going to say it really explains a lot about what a jerk Nick is nowadays, because he was made into like a god as the section championship winning quarterback and all this shit.
Zach just made me into a god.
This is why we hang out with them like multiple hours each week.
We're like, God, this guy's a dick.
I'm going to jump on Body Bag real quick. Nick, I know you wanted to, but I'm going to jump to Body Bag real quick, and it's going to be a a love-hate here because Jerry Goldsmith's soundtrack.
Your arms around my neck. Wait. Stop. I love you.
Jerry Goldsmith's soundtrack on Hoosiers. One, it didn't win the Oscar. It was nominated, did not win. So it wasn't an Oscar-winning soundtrack. But the synth keyboards that come in when it's like with the classical and he's trying to mix them both, oh, that grated me. It sounded so dated and just kind of like ugly. I did not like when those keyboards would come in.
I kind of liked it.
I did not dig it because what's funny is that
that's a hot take.
There's moments that come in that soundtrack that remind me a lot of the Rudy soundtrack. And in the Rudy, it's just all clean, classical, just
different.
Yeah, but
orchestral.
he's trying shit out, dude. You got.
He is trying shit out, but I'm saying I think he failed,
bro.
Okay.
I think he failed. I don't like.
hard to disagree.
There's a couple moments that sound great, but compared to the Rudy soundtrack, where he realized, don't bring the synth in, just really hit those nice little flows and things like that.
Or he's going to hit the synth in the Rudy. Like either way, the synth is coming probably. Like you don't.
that synthesizer and it's just so 80s, and I know that's when the movie was made, but it just stands out really badly.
For me,
Rudy soundtrack will live on for a long time. This one just sounds like that was definitely a period.
Hard to disagree. Okay, Zach.
Are we going body bag?
Yes.
I've got some body.
You
bag.
don't got some Karate Kid references?
I see he's got 4 laid out around his chair right now. They're just all unzipped.
No, I mean, if we're really gonna go body bags from this movie, my main one is that I graduated in 2001, so I'm
40.
I'm 39 years old.
Pretty old.
And this movie supposedly was depicting people in 1951.
Yes.
My God,
52,
Nate,
51, 52.
if I didn't do all of these exact same drills from this fucking movie in 1998,
That's a good point.
So you're you're body bagging.
I'm
your high
body
school
bagging the
coach?
fact that my high school coach was obviously like, he obviously
Watched
was
Hoosiers
like,
the night before.
I just watched Hoosiers. Like, I figured out all the drills we're gonna do for fucking practice. Like,
I
what
hacked
the
basketball.
fuck is going on? Like, we couldn't have come up with some fucking better drills in 50 fucking years.
They don't show that many drills. They show the dribbling through the
They
chairs.
show a
That's
lot
pretty
of
much
it,
all
bro. You're doing a lot of
They
drills. We're
show
doing
the
defensive
hands
drills.
out.
I
The
would say,
defensive drills, dude.
the
All
defensive
of
drills.
those things.
The fast feet.
The fast feet, the turn, every single thing they did in that movie, we did in high school practice, and I'm fucking pissed.
They're
at
trying
my
to win a
coach
state
right now.
championship, man. They were trying to win a state championship.
In 1951, when people had fucking weird haircuts and fucking crazy body
And Chuck
hair and were
Taylors.
wearing short ass shorts.
It's on brand for Zach to body
What
bag
the
our high
fuck
school
is
basketball.
going on? There's a certain coach that I'm telling you right now. I don't know if you live in Japan or where the fuck you live, but fuck you, bro. Like, what are you doing?
I do. I had one more body bag that actually kind of got that got eliminated because of the fact that they got the deleted scenes and you get to see like some of the stuff that was supposed to happen. Because it's like, I was gonna say, why does that one kid show back up on the team when they just like all of a sudden he's just back on the team?
Yeah.
That was just so random.
Yeah, just a deleted scene issue.
But it's a deleted scene issue, so that makes.
I'll
me
let
okay.
that pass. But
The
the fact
Draymond Green of the team.
Yeah.
the fact that we haven't come up with any new drills in 50 fucking years and people are still doing
Hey,
this
bro,
shit.
it won the Indiana State basketball championship.
Every
What else do you
time
need?
Let it go, bro.
every time that he says in the movie, pass the ball 4 times before you shoot it, I want to be like, have you ever watched a fucking basketball game?
It was 7.
But then-
Have you heard of the fucking Warriors, bro?
But then
you know
he
who
gives
Steph Curry is? You tell him to pass 4 times before he shoots the fucking ball. I'm sorry, but that is just fucking ridiculous. I remember our coach telling us we had to pass it 6 times before we shot the ball in real fucking games.
That's pre shot clock right there.
It's disgusting, dude.
We ran 2-3 minutes off a shot clock at a time back in the early playoffs.
Hey, so Jimmy Chitwood though, once
Makes
he
me upset.
shows up though, Norman Dale says, "Oh, fuck all those rules." Jimmy
Fire.
Chitwood fired
Fire
up there,
away.
baby, fired up.
Does he,
what?
though?
Jimmy, he don't miss. And I mean, that's one of the things.
Jimmy,
I love.
you're going to be the decoy? Shut the fuck up, Norman. What the? And we're supposed to be like, he's the greatest coach. I disagree, bro.
So Scotchbeck,
There's
like,
some-
if Scotchbeck was here, he has hot takes on Norman Dale being a horrible
shitty coach.
yeah, he's
Well,
dog shit.
They have to tell the coach, "Hey, you know what? I think we can get Jimmy open in that championship game." It's like, what the fuck do you mean? Isn't that your whole game plan? Get Jimmy open?
Shouldn't we have been doing that for 46 minutes? Like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, well, you guys are both wrong. Okay, Nick, body bag.
So Gene Hackman being an asshole on set
Yeah,
of a person.
You're
That's
gonna
my
body
body
bag
bag.
that?
Yeah, fuck yeah, I'm gonna body bag that.
Yeah,
Like, and that's his reputation for all directors. Based on what David said, his knowledge is
except, like,
except
super
for
iconic.
like iconic directors, he's a dick to. That's a dick.
My problem
and
with it is
he's one of
more-
my favorite actors.
Well, that's the thing. Like, is he though?
What
Like Hackman?
is he?
like,
What, a great actor? Or is he a
Amazing
dick?
Royal Tenenbaum.
I mean,
he's pretty.
He's pretty. He's a
in
unbelievable
Hoosiers
actor.
specifically, like, it's not like he's fucking throwing knife.
I'm not even talking
as
about
Bill Simmons would
Hoosiers.
say.
He's good Bonnie and Clyde.
Body of
He's not
work.
killing it in this movie. Like, dude, check your fucking ego at the door, dude.
So
yeah, it's wild.
So mine is a Gene Hackman, but it's the specific ability to kiss.
Or lack ability.
I think I separate from like separate it all from whether or not the scene, there should have been a kiss, which I
hard
talk a little bit
kisser.
about. It was a weird kiss.
He kind of wrapped around her in a weird way.
The neck,
the
dude.
mouth,
Like the hand around the neck.
The head grab.
The lip position was weird. It just didn't work for me. I wasn't in on the kiss.
It's like it's awkward. Like
the guy
like
tries
the
a
Step
similar
Brothers.
move in the porn version of The Natural, and it doesn't work.
I'm glad we got the callback to that.
All right, so
I did not
Great
forget.
reference, bro.
I did not forget.
That's a call to the future.
who has streaming recommendations?
I do.
All right.
I do.
I bet mine and Nick are going to lock eyes again. Go ahead, Nick. I'll bet me and Brad and Nick are the same.
I named my dick Rudy.
All right, mine's The Way Back.
Oh,
The little guy that could.
Okay, yeah, so we're on the pod, so I can't say it. So The Way Back, Amazon, you got to pay for it, $3.99. I recommend you pay for it. I think you will enjoy it.
This is a Fleck?
This is Benjamin Affleck, and directed by David O'Connor, who also did Miracle and Warrior. And
Gavin O'Connor.
Oh, sorry, Gavin. That's what I said.
Wasn't his brother?
Ben Affleck, and also, I mean, it's a pretty thin cast as far as notable names. Al Madrigal is pretty much like the supporting actor, but he's great. Al Madrigal's fucking funny, but he's actually really just a good supporting role in this. Ben Affleck is great, and he's an alcoholic battling with addiction. He's an ex-phenom, high school basketball phenom who kind of leaves the game, comes back to his alma mater, becomes a coach, and has a chance at taking on this team. And is he going to take him to the championship? Are they going to win the big game? I'm not going to tell you. It's a good watch. And
Is it Shooter's alternate reality?
I'm not going to go that far. Yeah, I mean it's it's his son. What's his son's name?
Emmett.
Emmett.
M. Night Shyamalan.
So it's Emmett, and then it's Emmett's son is Ben
Emmett's son.
Affleck.
That's
Yeah.
right. All right, Brad, what do you got?
I got Best of Times 1986, which is free on Plex.
Plex.
Let's go.
If you want some ads, if you
Free on
want
Plex.
if you want some ads, you can go to Tubi, Roku, or IMDb.
Oh, you're saying Free on Plex. I thought that was an actor in the movie Free on Plex.
Yeah, that's
I was like, that guy sounds dope.
The site you can watch it for free. The site you can watch
starring
it for free.
Charlize Theron.
It's called Plex, which
What the fuck?
I don't know. Go check it out. I don't know what you have to do to get free movies.
The-
All you
On
guys
Plex.
subscribe to Plex.
But Best of Times, of course, if we're talking nostalgic small town movies, this is my jam. Hoosiers was not my jam. I just watched it for the first time last night. So obviously Best of Times filled that void for me as far as small town nostalgia for a sport that I love.
maybe.
If you don't like it, then
Yeah, there's something wrong with you.
all right, Zach.
Don't forget, we're going to be checking in with you. Oh, wait, never mind. I can't say that.
No, nope. Don't go into the
not
future,
gonna be
Brad.
checking.
Goddamn
It gets
future.
hairy when you go into the future. I'm going to go with what I think that Nate at least would agree with me is the greatest traps ever in a movie, which
Hereditary.
is Warrior.
Oh, sorry.
And I believe it is on HBO Max.
Best traps.
And Tom Hardy's traps are popping. We've got an amazing story. Just fucking Nick Nolte just throwing 1,000 miles an hour. And if you haven't seen it, God damn it, go watch that movie. because
I'm
it
kind of
is
thinking that since we've
fucking
had
sick.
Anspaugh on this now, I mean, it just almost seems that it would make sense that Gavin O'Connor should probably come on.
I feel like
next.
that's-
What
I
about
feel like
what about David O'Connor? Nick's favorite.
Isn't he in
director.
Terminator 2?
Should we have him on?
So I can't believe. I feel like I was the fourth pick in a draft, and you guys all missed the number one pick, which is obviously Rudy. So you should go and watch if you have not David Anspaugh's other greatest, among the top
movie.
five,
Better movie.
among the top five, best sports movies of all time. Rudy, 1993. absolutely classic. The score is great. It's the same writing directing team.
Can we just at least admit, and nostalgia aside, can we at least admit that Rudy is a much more well-made movie?
A hard disagree.
No.
Hoosiers?
I mean, I'm not saying it's not.
By 1,000%.
No. I 100% disagree with that.
Come on.
We're on the same page, Brad.
No.
I don't even I mean, I don't even like the way, I mean, it ends. It's like, it's inspirational and everything, but like, to me, the way Hoosiers ends is the way I want. That's a sports movie I want to see.
It's also, I mean, for me, like, and maybe this is just source material, right? But like, Notre Dame, I mean, like, are we really rooting? I mean, you're rooting for Rudy.
It's also kind of a Notre Dame movie.
But sort of a Notre Dame movie, whereas like
and Vince Vaughn is running in football pads.
I was just about to say.
Does that make up for the synth? No.
I couldn't bring myself to ask Mr. Anspaugh about Vince Vaughn's athletic prowess.
I'm glad you didn't. I was like...
I did want to tell him, though, that... So I didn't realize that Jimmy Chitwood's like Lithuanian or something. Like
he looks like Mila Ventimiglia.
He's not American, and then
he's American in the sense that
he grew up in the United States, maybe, but yeah.
So
he's from the Ukraine, bro.
I thought it said that maybe he didn't even grow up in the United States, but whatever.
I don't think. That's
anyway,
true.
I will say that as far as picking a kid that's going to have just a pure looking shot, spot on. Like they picked the right kid that has just a shot that looks just legit. Like he's going to be draining.
And I think he did like a lot of those takes where he's shooting.
He kept making it,
and he made him like did first take. One take stuff.
He's definitely not Tim Robbins, 100%.
Well, Tim Robbins aside, Jimmy Chitwood's a legend.
Tim Robbins and Vince Vaughn should be on the same team.
He looks like Marco Bonelli.
Well,
they should come up with a team of the worst actor athletes.
Oh, geez, that'd be fun.
Oh, we need to do that.
Yeah, maybe like
worst actor athletes,
and we need to make a team.
Just make like a team of the worst.
We just got to pick a sport.
Portray an athlete yeah, that's a good one. I dig that.
All right, so if you want to watch Rudy for free and you have Stars, Brad's favorite company, you can watch it on Stars or DirecTV, or you can rent it where you rent things.
If you guys watched Hoosiers and liked it at all, watch Rudy, because I think Rudy is fucking great. It really is. And I wanted to ask Anspaugh about the fact that I read that he really pushed to have Aston as the lead. I never got to. We didn't get a chance to ask him,
it seems like we might have a Rudy episode in our future.
Yeah, I think we might.
So we might have to circle back.
2027.
So we're at the final category of alternate endings or reshelfs. Okay. So we either come up with a different ending, or we try to take the box from one shelf in Bev's over to another and make it a different genre. Anybody got one?
As much as I said I like Jimmy Chitwood saying he's going to take that last shot, Jimmy did enough. Jimmy did enough in that game. He had nearly all of Hickory's points. So Dale's coaching was all about there's no I in team, but yet when it comes to Jimmy Chitwood, he's like, fucking just fired up there, buddy. It's all you. It's all you, Jimmy. So when he suggests the final play to be a fake to Chitwood, they should have went with it. They should have sent, like, someone else is wide open on the final play. They score the game winner. Like, the kid who gets kicked off the team, then he comes back. Like, they apologize. Like, make that kid, because he's the one who kind of was an asshole to the coach, but now he gets to make that final shot. And they celebrate. It's the same ending. They get to celebrate. Why has it got to be Jimmy Chitwood? Like that seems like they know that if the other team has any sense at all, Jimmy Chitwood's getting that ball. Somebody's going to be open.
He's still going to J in their eye, though.
Yeah,
just Jimmy.
I don't think Jim. I think you need to give some love to the others, because it just basically just discredits all of Normandale's coaching the entire movie when he's like, oh, no I in team. We're going to be 5 guys working together. And it's like, oh no, just give it to fucking Jimmy. And
he didn't want to give it to Jimmy, though.
But I think he
didn't want to give it to Jimmy. It was he listened to the players.
Yeah, and I also don't think. I guess part of the like pushback against Normandale being a bad coach is just. I mean, if you look at their opening, he's doing a lot of defensive coaching, right? So like they have a good defensive team, and you see that that's as critical, but just not as quite as glorified throughout. So for me, right, the Normandale being a really good coach, and a lot of the fundamental stuff is the stuff that makes it possible for Jimmy to be successful by being a great offensive player, but it's not the thing that's going to, like, without the rest of it, Jimmy wouldn't be in position to win games for him.
Well, it's not that Normandale's actually the worst coach. The worst coach is the team that they're playing in the championship, because there was no shot clocks and so yet they're firing. They're up by 6, and they're just firing it up,
and they just get the ball stolen from them 4 times.
As somebody who has coached high school basketball players, let me just tell you that shit happens all the time.
I know,
like you just want to pull your hair out.
No, I'm assuming, but goddamn, they just could have been just running around, dribbling around in the backcourt with the ball.
We're gonna have our buddy Nate Govett on, who I coached with, and see what he has to say about this. I know you're listening out there.
Hey, he just gave us a like on Spotify. It came up on my notifications.
Our first like on Spotify, I think. Yeah. I didn't know you could even do that.
So okay. So any other alternate endings or reshelves?
I got like I either have drama or I'll go with like my slapstick comedy.
Let's do it that way for sure.
I figured Brad would be into it. I was like channeling my Naked Gun, and what brought me to Naked Gun was going like way spoof. So when Hopper's talking about the picket fence play, that someone actually starts like building a picket fence like in the play, and the other team is like sitting and watching the paint dry.
Don't watch the paint dry. And they know not to watch the paint dry, so that's how they scored the final
basket. They're watching the paint dry. They score the final point, and Hackman's a cross between Leslie O'Neal, Patches O'Houlihan, and you got Affleck because he's battling with his World War II demons a little angry.
Yeah,
he's an angry war vet.
Okay. I'm in on that spoof, by the way.
So I've got the ultimate alternate ending for this movie, and that is that Hoffman gets arrested for sexual assault for his aggressive. Hackman gets arrested for his sexual assault.
You mean Hershey?
For his aggressive kiss of the young teacher in the woods, and then Hopper has to fucking come off the bench and just be like, okay, I'm sober enough, and comes in and coaches the team to the championship. Everything happens the same except for Hackman kind of rides off into the sunset in the
That's cool.
to the pokey. He goes and hangs out with our boys at Shawshank. Right, maybe sees the sisters.
He's Brooks. You mean?
Does Jimmy Chitwood have a career after this, or is he like so kind of like a little bit mentally disturbed that he just never can put it together for a college and NBA career?
JC.
I don't think he ends up going too far. I think he goes to college. I just don't think he has a great college career. I don't think the game's built for him to be a great college player.
Well, the teacher was talking like he's like academic. He can get academic scholarships. Like, so he's like brilliant in the classroom as well, because the dude says like 2 words in the whole movie.
Yeah, because he's focused and studying. All right.
He goes on to become Viggo Mortensen, stars in the Lord of the Rings movies. Is what really happens.
So so my reshelf is the typical Keith reshelf. It's Hoosiers till dawn. So they show up at the state championship game. They get on the court. The tip goes up, and all the opposing players turn into vampires.
And they're like,
so now they're trying to they've forgotten all about trying to win the game. They're just trying to fight their way out of the gym.
And they're just running.
And so but luckily there's a lot of wood around because it's the 50s and everything's made of wood. So they start breaking off pieces of the bleachers and
they're like, shit wood. Get some wood.
Jimmy Chitwood kills like 17 vampires for every one that his teammates kill.
Exactly.
They're like all working together on one. He's just stab.
All right. So that's so my this is not an alternate ending, but so we talked to David about the fact that there's a lot of what's cut out in the deleted scenes that they had in the sort of original cut was the development of the relationship between the love interests. And so when all that's cut out, he sort of talks about the fact that relationship doesn't develop the way that it makes as much sense romantically. When I watched it this time and I sort of was thinking about what was cut out, I thought, I wonder if like in hindsight, you could take it and make them not have a romantic element at all and just have them be kind of confidants and friends. Like if they don't kiss in the woods, does it ever even seem weird?
No,
like,
it doesn't.
It would kind of
absolutely right.
It would have kind of felt like there was a little maybe like tension with them, but like they could have just been sort of friends,
colleagues
and friends.
And that's a great point. And then the way that he could have looked at her up in the stands the exact same way when they won, and you would have been like, "Oh, I knew it."
And when
he turns away from her,
when she yells from the stands, it's a good question, that has a romantic tone
flirty
to it.
Yeah,
but it's not like she wants to know if this coach comes back. So like for me, it was like if you literally just remove the kiss, that's the only thing you change.
I love that.
It kind of takes this and makes it, and it kind of makes it progressively interesting because like you don't force this man and woman to be into a romantic thing and allow them to just kind of be like confidants.
And it's 8 minutes shorter.
Well, that's fine because I was going to set up my own screening, which is just take all the basketball out and it's just a love story between them. I was going to edit that on my computer tonight.
I'm with Nate on this one. I think that's the perfect way to kind of fix a lot of my problems with this movie, actually. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of what you can kind of do if you do that, you take that 6 minutes of their kind of like falling in love scene or whatever it is, and you kind of add in a little tiny bit of backstory to some of the players, and then it's just a much more impactful movie.
Hey, were none of these boys like cracking beers or like partying? Or
it's Indiana,
like,
bro.
That's pretty.
Is they're all straight?
Closes down at.
It's pretty hard to get your hands on beer and at that time. I bet.
I mean, I would say one of my least favorite things about this movie is that there's no way to tell the difference between the dudes, except for like the little short guy. They're really all just like the exact same
saying
dude.
that all Indiana white guys look alike.
They all look
pretty
like
much.
Nick.
They're all like the same dude, and it's like trying to tell the difference between them, like even in the games and stuff. I was like,
so there are a couple, especially there's one that looks to me a lot like Jimmy, and I often like see him, and I'm like, wait, that's Jimmy. No, it's not Jimmy. So I feel you on that. But I do think that like. I wouldn't have thought of it, but it is a super interesting point, right, that Anspaugh makes, where he's kind of like a little bit of a, you don't get to have your cake and eat it too, right? We wanted athletes that made the basketball good, and we didn't get to have, as a result, we weren't going to write a bunch of really deep scenes for these basketball players that help develop their characters, in part because like the acting wouldn't be there. And I'm in on that because like for me this is a basketball movie.
Agreed.
So like I got plenty of movies I can watch if I want deep dives on characters.
I think the basketball action is pretty good.
Well, and when you're talking about a sports movie, you're talking about a team of players. So that's a big ask to involve not just the main character coach, but involve 2, 3, 4 characters on a team and have you like try and get invested in
and
it.
try to have a narrative, and you do get a little bit invested in the
Major League's the best. Major League's probably the best the movie that did it the
Those
best.
characters got developed. Yeah.
I will say we didn't talk about basketball fights at all. When there's 2 major ones where the coach is smacking people and dudes are getting punched and stuff, and it's just like, oh fuck, let's just keep playing.
That's old school, man.
He's old school.
He's a known kid puncher.
I know. But I mean, Nate actually didn't get involved, but we got into a nice big fight at one of his high school basketball games.
They kept us in the locker room.
It was post game fight.
Yeah. All right. Well. That's Hoosiers. You guys want anything else we want to throw in? I mean,
that was fun.
We had David Anspaugh on. Still,
it's a little
sinking in a little.
Yeah, if you've listened to this full episode, you might as well just go back and listen again because you're listening to David Anspaugh, the guy that directed this whole.
Directed this and Hoosiers. I mean, this and Rudy. So
and like
it was a treat.
I don't think we like described when he held it up in the moment, but when he held up a picture to the screen.
Yes. We got to check.
And we didn't like describe it to you listeners out there because this is not a visual medium, but. He held up a picture to the screen and he says that he kind of says it spoke volumes and said everything about his experience with Gene Hackman. And it's a photograph in the Hickory gym, and it's kind of almost like there's like a fogginess in the gym, like dustiness, and it's grainy. It's a black and white photo, and it's him between takes. It's him. Is it the writer? Is it Angelo?
It was the basketball coordinator
trying to talk to Hackman.
Basketball coordinator trying to talk to Hackman, and David said it. He said it. He felt like the photo said everything about his experience with Hackman, specifically because Hackman's arms are crossed, not in the necessarily the pose to receive any type of instruction or feedback, or looking very
like my pissed. My daughter, when she's not going to do something, like, she's just like, no. Like
that dang Brenna, she's so hardcore.
Having a little fit, and he said it felt like it said everything. And
Anspaugh's got his head down, like, God damn it, here we go again.
It's
just like
exhausted with it. Yeah.
So the last thing I want to say before we kill this pod is just, kids out there, if you have a dream, Look at BVK podcast. I mean, we said we were like, we should make a beer. We'll call it BVK IPA. Guess what we fucking have? A beer called BVK IPA. Guess what we did? We were like, let's make a segment called Drinking with the Director. However long it took before we got an actual director on, we got a fucking amazing director from a couple of amazing movies on our podcast. So fucking stick with it, kids. If we can do it, you can do it. I'm trying to be inspirational here, just like Hoosiers.
Yeah, man, you're the Hoosiers.
I just need some
Hoosiers of best video candidates.
Anspaugh might he might direct a movie about us.
Well, at least about Zach.
What would be the fucking chill moment of that movie? It would be like when Nick wins the preseason.
Zach getting his first win, and everybody's just like crying tears.
We end right there.
Exactly, that'd be like the Ollie moment. It'd be more like the Ollie moment.
Oh,
Zach
God.
just runs.
They have the same head.
Zach runs drunk onto the court, like, "Fucking, are we doing a podcast?"
Hey man, hey Zach, I preach it though, bud. You're speaking truth though. I'm with you.
Yeah, I was on a conversation earlier with Court about this, and it's a cool thing to like.
It is.
Try. You keep trying to do something. And
I called my parents. I called my brother. I told in my closest circle of people immediately what was going on, and a couple extra
Pretty
people.
exciting.
I called a couple of people, and they were like, "What about your commercial with all the dick jokes?" And I was like, "Yeah, that was cool too, but we got a real director on." They're like, "Yeah, but what about the dick jokes?" And I was like, "You're my target audience."
All right, guys. Hey, thanks again for listening. Check us out on Thursday when we will be doing the most memorable game-winning moments in sports movies, and we're going to have Kyle Bandujo on to guest. He's the host of Big Screen Sports, and so
We might also have Kyle Banduho.
we might, depending on how he pronounces his name, which we may never find out. Okay, thanks, guys. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
I wanna be at Beverly's, bringing me home with my movies. Just a blind ride, no reason why. I love this scene. Nick Nate, Zach, and Brad, your favorite podcast. Let's start this thing.